You told yourself you'd start when you were ready, when the plan was solid enough, when the timing was right, when you felt confident enough to not embarrass yourself. So you waited. And while you waited, you refined, you researched, you reorganized the plan for the fourth time. You watched more tutorials. You made the outline better. You told yourself this was still progress, but deep down you already know what this actually is. It's not preparation. It's avoidance, dressed up in productivity clothing. And the thing about perfectionism is it never looks like fear. It looks like standards. It looks like caring. It looks like being serious about the work. That's exactly why it's so dangerous. Because by the time you realize it's destroying you, you've already spent months building a prison that felt like a workshop. Here's the part most people miss. Perfectionism is not about quality. It never was. Perfectionism is a fear management strategy. It's a way your brain learned to protect you from the pain of being judged, rejected, or proven inadequate. If you never finish, no one can criticize the result. If you never publish, no one can say it wasn't good enough. If you never start properly, you always have an excuse ready. The unfinished draft is safe. The launched product is exposed. Your brain understood this a long time ago, and it built an entire internal system designed to keep you in the preparation phase forever. Psychologist Carol Dweck, who spent decades studying how people respond to challenge and failure, found that people with what she called a fixed mindset believe their abilities are static, set at birth, impossible to grow. To these people, every performance is a verdict. Every result is a measurement of their permanent worth. When you believe your intelligence or talent is fixed, failing at something doesn't just mean you failed at the task. It means you are a failure. Permanently. In your category. Perfectionism is what a fixed mindset does when it tries to stay safe. If you hold yourself to an impossibly high standard and you never quite meet it, you never have to face the real verdict. You're always almost there. You're always almost ready. The standard itself becomes your shield. And here's where it gets painful. Because perfectionism doesn't just slow you down. It eats the things that actually matter. Think about the last thing you didn't finish. Not because you ran out of time, not because something came up, but because it wasn't quite right yet, because something about it nagged at you, because you looked at it and thought, not yet. What happened to that thing? It's still sitting somewhere, isn't it? In a folder, in a notebook, in the back of your mind, quietly accumulating the weight of everything you never shipped. This is what researchers call the Zeigarnik Effect, the psychological phenomenon named after Soviet psychologist Bluma Zeigarnik, who observed that people remember uncompleted tasks far more vividly than completed ones. Your brain keeps an open loop for every unfinished thing. Every project you didn't complete is a file your mind never closed. The mental cost of carrying all those open loops is enormous. It fractures your attention. It makes starting new things feel heavier than they should. It convinces you that you're overwhelmed when really you're just haunted by everything you postponed. Perfectionism doesn't just stop you from finishing. It fills your mental RAM with ghosts. And the worst part, the thing you're protecting with all this delay isn't even real. Psychologist Bandura called it self-efficacy. Your belief in your own ability to execute and produce results in a specific situation. Self-efficacy doesn't come from thinking about doing something. It doesn't come from preparing to do it. It doesn't come from studying people who've done it. It comes from actually doing it, from the direct experience of trying, struggling, adjusting, and completing, even imperfectly. Every time you delay action to perfect the plan, you are actively preventing yourself from building the one thing that would make you capable of executing the plan well. Let that sit for a moment. You're waiting to feel ready. But the feeling of readiness you're waiting for can only be built by doing the thing before you feel ready. The cycle is airtight. And perfectionism designed it that way. Now here's something worth understanding about how this starts. Because most people with perfectionist tendencies didn't choose this. They were trained into it. You received messages, early, repeated, and often subtle, that your value was conditional. That love, approval, and acceptance were tied to performance. That mistakes were embarrassing. That being wrong meant something about who you are, not just what you did. Over time, your nervous system learned to treat failure as a threat, not as feedback. And when your nervous system treats failure as a threat, perfectionism is the armor it builds. This is not weakness. This is a rational adaptation to an irrational environment. But understanding where it came from doesn't mean you have to keep living inside it. Here's the reframe. Stop thinking about perfectionism as a high standard. Start thinking about it as a debt you're running up. Every time you delay a decision waiting for perfect clarity, you accrue debt. Every time you redo something that was already good enough, you accrue debt. Every time you don't send the email, don't post the work, don't start the project because some condition hasn't been met yet, you accrue debt. Not financial debt. Momentum debt. The longer you carry it, the heavier starting feels, and eventually, the weight of what you haven't done starts to feel bigger than the effort of doing the next thing. Perfectionism convinces you that the cost of releasing imperfect work is humiliation, but the actual cost is compounding. Every month you delay shipping, something is a month of feedback you didn't get, a month of skills you didn't build from real-world friction, a month of credibility you didn't establish, a month of a gap in your record that future you will have to explain. Done is not the enemy of good. Done is the only path to good. Because here's the thing about quality, real quality, the kind that actually impresses people, that builds careers, that makes work meaningful, is never produced in isolation. It's produced through iteration, through releasing version 1, learning what's wrong with it, fixing it, releasing version 2. The people you admire most for the quality of their work are not people who got it perfect on the first try and then published it. They are people who published imperfect versions long enough to develop genuine mastery. You cannot iterate on something you haven't shipped. So what does this actually look like in practice? Not in a motivational poster sense, in a Tuesday morning sense. It looks like deciding in advance what good enough to ship means. Before you start, not after. Not perfect, not the best it could theoretically be with unlimited time. Good enough that it solves the problem or communicates the idea or demonstrates the skill. And then holding that line, it looks like building a tolerance for discomfort. Because the moment you share, real work is uncomfortable. That discomfort is not a sign that something is wrong. It's a sign that you're doing something that matters to you. Discomfort and readiness are not opposites. You can feel uncomfortable and do it anyway. That's actually what competence feels like from the inside. It looks like separating your identity from your output. The work is not you. The work is a version of your thinking, at a particular point in time, with the skills you had available then. It can be criticized, improved, discarded, or built upon without any of that being a verdict on who you are. And it looks like starting with the smallest possible visible step, not planning the perfect step, not waiting until you can execute the big step well, the smallest step that produces a real output in the real world where feedback can reach it. Because feedback is what perfectionism is actually afraid of, and feedback is the only thing that makes you better. You started this thinking you were protecting the work. You were really protecting yourself from finding out what the work was worth, from finding out where the gaps were, from finding out that the gap between where you are and where you want to be is real, but crossable. The gap doesn't close in your notes. It doesn't close in your planning documents. It doesn't close while you're watching someone else do the thing you keep preparing to do. It closes when you put something out, imperfect and honest, and let the world push back. That's not recklessness. That's courage. That's how every person you've ever respected actually got good at anything. You're not waiting to be ready. You're waiting to be safe. And the work that changes things was never made from safe. Stop perfecting, start shipping.